Adrian Smith sat in silence, the weight of decades pressing on his shoulders. The rehearsal room was eerily quiet, except for the hum of amplifiers that hadn't yet been switched off. Nicko McBrain had just told the band his decision. He was stepping away. Retirement. After 40 years of thunder, laughter, and madness on the road, their unstoppable drummer was finally calling it a day. Adrian didn't say a word at first. He just stared at the empty drum kit. It felt wrong, like a sacred circle suddenly broken. Nicko's voice, always full of jokes and warmth, had trembled that morning. "Boys, my body's telling me it's time." Bruce Dickinson tried to lighten the mood, cracking a joke, but no one laughed, not even Steve Harris. The band had faced lineup changes before, but this was different. This wasn't a firing or a feud. It was time itself catching up to them. Adrian thought back to their earliest gigs with Nicko, those sweat-soaked nights in the 80s, when the band played like they were saving the world. Nicko's drumming had been the heartbeat of Iron Maiden, relentless, alive, unpredictable. Replacing that wasn't just hard, it was impossible. As Nicko walked out of the studio, Adrian picked up his guitar, but couldn't bring himself to play a note. For the first time in his life, the sound of silence inside Iron Maiden was deafening. And in that silence, Adrian knew nothing was ever going to be the same again. Iron Maiden wasn't just a band. It was a brotherhood forged through chaos, miles of touring, and years of fighting for their sound. Adrian and Nicko had shared everything: the sleepless nights before festivals, the wild laughter backstage, the quiet conversations after the lights went down. They'd watched each other grow older, grayer, but never slower. Until now. Nicko wasn't just a drummer to Adrian, he was family. When Nicko joined Maiden in 1982, he Bruce. Just more than rhythm. He brought soul. His energy pushed everyone higher. His personality made the dark moments lighter. He was the glue when things threatened to fall apart. Adrian remembered those first rehearsals, when Nicko walked in with that giant grin and said, "Right then, lads, let's make some bloody noise." Within minutes, they knew they'd found something special. Over the decades, they survived every storm, creative clashes, exhaustion, near breakups, because of that unity. But watching Nicko step away felt like watching part of himself disappear. Adrian knew what this meant. Iron Maiden could continue, yes, but it would never feel the same. Because Iron Maiden wasn't just about the riffs or the screaming crowds. It was about that unspoken bond between the men who lived and breathed it. When Nicko packed up his cymbals for the last time, he hugged Adrian tightly. "You'll keep it going, mate," he said. But Adrian just nodded, not trusting his voice, because deep down, he didn't know if he could. Their last show together was a blur of emotion. The stage lights burned bright, but behind the smiles, there was heartbreak. Nicko played like a man possessed, pouring every ounce of himself into those drums. His fills on The Trooper roared with fire. His timing on Hallowed Be Thy Name was flawless, yet every hit carried a bittersweet weight. Adrian watched from across the stage, his guitar screaming with emotion. It wasn't just another concert, it was goodbye. When the band took their final bow that night, Nicko raised his sticks high, tears visible even through the sweat. The crowd had no idea what was coming. They just roared for more. But Adrian knew it was the end of an era. After the encore, the band gathered backstage. No one spoke for a long time. Then Nicko simply said, "It's been a hell of a ride, lads." They raised their glasses, the clinking sound echoing softly in the quiet room. Adrian looked at Nicko, the man who had driven their music for 4 decades, and realized that some endings don't need words. They just hurt. That night, Adrian didn't sleep. He sat by the hotel window, looking out over the city lights, wondering what Iron Maiden would sound like without that heartbeat behind them. And the answer frightened him, because you can find another drummer, but you can't replace a soul. The day after Nicko's farewell, the rehearsal space felt hollow. His drum kit was still there, but the energy that once filled the room had vanished. Adrian walked in early, as he always did, guitar in hand, expecting to hear the familiar sound of sticks tapping on cymbals. But there was only silence, the kind that presses on your chest. Steve Harris tried to act normal. He was already making lists of possible replacements, ever the professional, ever the leader. Bruce hummed a melody, pretending to be busy, but everyone could feel it. The ghost of Nicko McBrain, it in every corner. Adrian strummed a few notes, but they sounded off. Wrong. The groove wasn't there. He realized how much of his playing had always been built around Nicko's drumming, that unique swing, not just metal precision, but feel, humor, and personality, the kind of timing that can't be written on paper. When the crew started dismantling Nicko's setup, Adrian had to look away. Watching those drums being taken apart was like watching a memory fade. He whispered to himself, "How are we supposed to move on?" The truth was simple. They would, because they had to. But the fire had dimmed, and as the door closed behind the roadies, Adrian felt it in his bones. Iron Maiden had just stepped into a new chapter, but one they never wanted to write. News of Nicko's retirement broke online like a thunderclap. Fans across the world flooded social media with heartbreak. Thousands of comments poured in. Iron Maiden won't be the same. Nicko forever. No one can replace him. Adrian read some of them, then stopped. It was too painful, because every word was true. Still, the band had to move forward. Steve started calling names, drummers known for power, speed, and technical skill. The list looked impressive on paper, but to Adrian, it didn't matter. None of them were Nicko. The first few auditions felt strange. The new players were good, even great. They played every song perfectly. But that's what bothered Adrian. They played them too perfectly. No swing, no grit, no laughter behind the beat. After each session, the band would nod politely, thank the drummer, and then sit in silence once the room emptied. Bruce tried to break the tension. "We'll find someone, lads." But his eyes betrayed him. Adrian finally said what everyone was thinking. "We might find a drummer, but we'll never find Nicko." Steve sighed, staring at the floor. "Yeah," he whispered, "but the show has to go on." And that's when Adrian realized something. Iron Maiden wasn't just fighting time anymore. They were fighting the memory of what they used to be. When the new drummer finally arrived, Adrian didn't know what to expect. The kid, 30 years younger than Nicko, was fast, talented, full of fire. He introduced himself with nervous energy, clearly aware of the giant shoes he was stepping into. During the first jam, his precision was undeniable. Every beat was sharp, every fill perfect. But to Adrian, it sounded clinical. The magic wasn't there. After rehearsal, the new drummer came up and said, "It's an honor, really. I grew up watching you guys." Adrian smiled politely but said nothing. He didn't want to crush the kid's spirit, but inside, something hurt, because this wasn't Iron Maiden anymore, not the one he'd spent his life in. Still, he watched as Steve encouraged the drummer, giving notes, pushing for chemistry. Bruce cracked jokes to lighten the mood. The band was trying. Everyone was. But when Adrian plugged in his guitar for the next run-through, something felt wrong again. The groove didn't breathe. The room didn't shake. The song sounded correct, but not alive. Later that night, alone in his hotel room, Adrian stared at an old photo. The band from the 80s, all smiles, all invincible. He whispered, "We're still here, but it doesn't feel like us." And that's when he knew. The hardest part of moving on isn't losing someone. It's pretending you haven't.